Well. Jeff, it is good to be with you today. We got Jeff Hayzlett here with us. How you doing today, Jeff?
I am doing great. I'm having a fantastic day.
You've got offices in the West Coast and the East Coast. It looks like you're in New York today.
In New York City. This is our office right here in the middle of Manhattan.
Love it. Well, I want to do a quick introduction for you. And Jeff, you've done some amazing things in your life. I mean, Jeff is a primetime television host of the C-Suite with Jeff Hayzlett and executive prospects on C-Suite TV, and business podcast host of All Business with Jeff Hayzlett on CBS On Demand Radio Network. Play it. Hayzlett is the best-selling author and chairman of C-Suite Network, home of the world's most powerful network of C-Suite leaders. And we got a lot of executives on with us today. We got a lot of CEOs on with us today. He's going to be joining us while we discuss business and really talk about one of your greatest books. You've got a bunch of books, but this is one of my favorites. Think Big and Act Bigger. Tell me about that. Why that's so important as a CEO to think big and act bigger.
Well, I tell you what, I'm from a place where most people only know on a map. I'm from South Dakota. It's a flyover state. And it was early on in my career that I realized that, I was doing things in terms of selling, and I thought I was a big fish in a big pond. And when I started looking around, I realized it was a pretty small pond, meaning I was only doing business right there in Minnehaha County in Sioux Falls. And I started realizing I could start to do business outside of Sioux Falls. I could take this to other states. I could take it to other countries. And when I started to realize that, I started adding more zeros. And so one of the biggest things that we can do strategically, we're really good tactically. Most of us love tactical stuff. That's why we do what we do. But it's really important for a CEO to be very strategic in terms of their thinking and to start to add zeros so that you can get bigger. So it's not just about thinking big, but it's about acting bigger and putting the plans in place to be relentless, to be a winner.
That's amazing. So when you done this, I mean, you were the CMO of Kodak during some pretty crazy times, and you've done some other, just some other great things. As you think about some of your, hardest challenges that you've ever faced, and today as a CEO, what do you think are some of the biggest challenges of CEOs today and that they face?
Well, a couple of them. I always think one of the biggest things that most CEOs face is just focus. And to being able to really just narrow it down. I call it killing squirrels, because every day, as we look at it, if you remember the movie Up, I don't know if you ever had a chance to see, there's a great movie. It had an Ed Asner character. It was an animated movie about a man who wanted to go see Paradise Falls and he ended up taking a little young scout, and they run into this dog by the name of Doug the talking dog. He'd been outfitted with a collar that you could hear his inner thoughts. And so he'd come up to you and say, "Hey, I like you very much. I think you're a wonderful guy." And all of a sudden he'd go, "Squirrel," because he's a dog. I mean, and so that's what happens in business every day, Randy, is we have these squirrels that pop up and we want to go chase them here. We want to chase them here. So it's really, really important for us to really focus in on the next piece of it, our conditions of satisfaction. So what are the 1, 2, or 3 things that drive your bit? Maybe it's up to 5 or 6. I've never seen more than 7, but that drive your business. And then what do you have to do to drive those every day? And so you need to have those personal conditions of satisfaction, but you need those conditions of satisfaction for the business, and then be maniacal on the focus of those conditions of satisfaction, what we call mutual conditions. Again, promises. I call those promises, where we spend a great deal of time, what's my promise to the customer? What's my promise to my team? What's my promise to my family? What's my promise to God? What's my promise to all the things that are important to me? Those we have to really hold fundamentally in front. And that's the biggest problem we have, is we got to kill those squirrels. They pop up all the time.
And it's a matter of, I'm reading another book right now that is called Deep Work. It's a fantastic book. You put that along with, Think Big, with really what you're talking about is focus, because think big, think bigger is so important as a CEO and as a leader. Let's say you're not a CEO, but let's say you're a CMO or a leader. You have to break the status quo, right? You have to have people follow you where places where people have never gone before. If not, you're going to stay mediocre.
Exactly, and we failed to do that, Randy. Let me show you. Back here's a picture of me and Trump. Okay, you know, I was a judge on Celebrity Apprentice for 3 years. I helped come up with the idea for around the show, and one of its very first sponsors. Well, I was sitting around. I was the chief marketing officer of Eastman Kodak, a Fortune 100 company at the time. I'd spent 4 years there trying to help turn it around. Unfortunately, there wasn't enough, you know, runway to be able to do that. Now, I bought and sold over 250 businesses in my career, $25 billion in transactions, managed a budget of $17 billion there. So, you know, and we were sitting around trying to come up with ways to promote this new product. And I said to the team, what we need to do is put it on The Apprentice. Well, as we got to playing around with it, everyone said, well, how are we supposed to do that? We can't do that. I'm not sure how to do that. And they weren't thinking big. And I said, come on, we're Kodak. Get a hold of Donald Trump and let's get it on the doggone show. And someone said, well, how do you do that? I don't know how to do that. And they were all like negative on it. You know how teams get sometimes. And by the way, we get that way sometimes. We start saying no before we say yes or open up the possibilities. And I said, finally, why doesn't someone just pick up the phone and call him? Well, we can't call Donald Trump. Oh, yeah, you can. So I grabbed the phone and I dialed the outside line. I dialed, 411. And I asked for New York City. And I was up in Rochester, New York at the time. And I said, can I have the number for Donald Trump? And of course, they gave me the number. They said, we don't have a Donald Trump, but we have the Trump Organization. Give me that number. So I make a long story short, but I called, left a message, and got through to his secretary and said, look, I had a couple $1 million to spend because I know how to think like Donald Trump. I mean, he's about the money, right? That's what he was thinking. So I said to him, I said, well, you let him know that I have $2 million to spend in the next 30 minutes. If he can call me back, I'd love to spend it with him. If he can't, I understand. It's okay. I'll spend it somewhere else. Well, and there I threw out the gauntlet, at that time. Yeah. And so within 15 minutes, Donald Trump called me back. Within 30 days, we came up with working with Mark Burnett at the time. Yeah. Because he gave me Mark Burnett's cell phone number. I called Mark Burnett right away, and we had the show, The Celebrity Apprentice, on the air. And our product was featured on it for 3 years, and I ended up being on the show for 5 years. So amazing, fabulous.
That's awesome.
But then again, Randy, if you don't mind me, once you put the quarter in, dude, you get to go for the full ride. Okay.
Yeah, I love it. That's cool.
But it's about saying, well, why not? Why can't I? I have a company in Sioux Falls. I'm chairman and on the board for about 14 companies. I'm chairman of this company. It's called Tallgrass, and it stands for, if you want to run with the big dogs, you have to learn to pee in the tall grass. All right. And it's really about saying you got to want to be big dogs. You want to be big dogs. You want to run. You want to be successful. You have to do the right thing. So it's thinking bigger, but more importantly, acting bigger. It's picking up the phone and saying, why not? And so the slogan for Tallgrass, it says we're in New York, LA, San Francisco, and Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And then it says ... because we can. Because we can. And that's the reason why you should be doing it.
Well, and I love it. I mean, I told you the first time I met you. I mean, how tall are you? 6'4"?
6'3".
6'5" with heels. When you wear cowboy boots. And you're really. I mean, you just have this amazing personality.
Wow, that's nice of you.
But I gotta say, the first time I was actually a little intimidated to come up to you and say, "Hey, Jeff, how you doing?" And we met. But you're such a great person as well. But also, you've also been called kind of pig-headed and irrational, and but for me, when I get to know you, it's all about getting it done.
Yeah.
How do you balance that? Also being kind, but also being able to get crap done.
Well, I tell you, I'm going to write down irrational and I'm going to write down pighead because I want to get to those, but I have to tell you just one brief story. Squirrel moment. Here you go. Extra content. Weren't expecting this. First time I met my wife's great grandmother, and my wife is 5'1", 105 pounds. Grandma Agnes is 4'11", even smaller than Tammy. And of course, you mentioned I'm 6'3", 270 some pounds. And I remember the very first time I met Tammy's great grandmother. She looked way up at me. She looked at Tammy. She looked way up at me. She looked at Tammy, and then she turned back and said, "Isn't he bigger than necessary?" So that was how I got involved with I'm a little bit bigger than I should be, nonetheless. But I mentioned the word that every business leader needs to be pig-headed. We need to be irrational. Now, on my show, The C-Suite with Jeffrey Hayzlett, one of the things that I do is I take you in to the C-suites of companies where 99% of the people don't get to go. So I take you inside at the top levels of the company. And I went and saw a company called Life Technologies. Now, Life Technologies is a $4 billion company, and I'd been working with them in the future, or earlier, a couple years before, helped them roll up about 48 different companies, changed the name from In Vitro to Life Technologies, because life is a much better name. And so with that, they were selling to Thermo Fisher. They were about to announce that they just announced they were selling to Thermo Fisher for $13.4 billion. So I asked the CEO, can I come in and talk to your team about what's it like in the C-suite? What's it like to sell your company? What's going through your head? Because you might have a job, you might not. And what's it like to go through that transition? Now, I've been through that many, many times, but not everybody is able to see that. Well, while I was there, I was doing some what we call B-roll. And when we shoot B-roll, it's me in a meeting or something like that where we're shooting over my shoulder and we're getting action shots of other people. And Greg Lucier, who's the CEO of the company, was speaking at a Harvard MBA group, alumni group in San Diego. And he was talking about what it's like and what the principles are of how you should be a leader and so forth. And one of the slides he put up was, he said, leaders must be irrational. And I thought, are you freaking nuts? Are you nuts? Leaders be irrational. That doesn't make sense. But look, Greg, first of all, you're a former GE exec, one of the top GE execs. Now you're running this biometric company about mapping the human genome, a scientific company. If anything, you should be rational. Second, you're a publicly traded company. You have to be rational. How could you say such a thing? So I'm like, on my notes, I'm getting to the camera guys, make sure you get this, because I'm writing irrational, exclamation point. I'm going to nail this sucker. I'm thinking I'm going to get him in the meeting room and I'm going to hit him with these questions. And then he said, here, listen, guys and gals, heroes, this is how you really become a real good leader. He says, look, right down here is point A. That's where you start. And you want to get to point B. But sometimes we have to be irrational. And we have to tell our team we're going way up here just to get them there. And I thought, brilliant. That's brilliant. Because, yeah, you know, he's crazy. He's irrational. He's wacko. Oh, there's no way. It's like being remember back in high school, Randy, when we played sports and the coach at the end of the thing and we were all done, we were exhausted, we were tired, and the coach says, run another lap.
Oh, totally. I remember it.
And you remember, and you think, oh, I'm going to throw up. He's going to kill me. I'm going to die. You know what? You did it and you didn't die. That's being irrational. It's what a great hero CEO does, what a great coach does, is they're a little irrational to push you past the point of where you need to be. And I thought that was brilliant.
That is. It really is. Like, how do you do those things that have never been done?
You know, and then I'll add with the being a little bit pig-headed. The other thing is, you know, who's going to stand for the quality of the quality of the product? Who's going to stand and hold the standards of how we have a great customer experience, or what our brand logo looks like, and what our look and feel is? I think those are held by the CEO as well. I think you have to epitomize the company values. You have to epitomize the company look and feel, the promise. That's what a brand is, by the way. A brand is, you know, it's always something we put on a cow and occasionally a horse. You know that from being in Wyoming, right? And then it's become known as the brand. What's the brand of the company? Well, brand isn't your logo. It's not your identification of the ownership on the side of a bovine. A brand is a promise delivered. So what's your promise? And you have to be pig-headed and saying, this is the promise that we're going to deliver, and we're going to deliver it. And that's what that irrational pig-headedness is for most CEOs.
No, that's so helpful. And that's where some people are like, have such admiration for CEOs that grow massive businesses, but also you have to really push your people, right? As thinking bigger, how have you found the ability to, as a leader, to help your people to think bigger?
Well, I think say that again. I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part.
No, what do you do to help your team? Because you know you can't do anything alone. What do you do to help your team to think bigger?
Well, you got to get them to drink the Kool-Aid. They got to drink the Kool-Aid, man. You have to get them as excited or near excited as you are about the possibilities of what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. So they have to drink the Kool-Aid, drink the champagne, get on the wagon, whatever you want to say. I call it drinking the Kool-Aid. When I was at big companies, HR people hated that I would say that. They said, oh, that's not good. But to me, that's like saying we're going to drink it together and we're going to do it. We're making a commitment. And that's what you have to be able to do, is be able to give people the excitement. One of the biggest things that can kill a business, and people talk about culture, culture is great, and I think culture is something that you build over time, and it's what we do together. But one of the biggest impacts that you can make on the business is on the mood. What's the mood of the company?
Right.
I mean, Randy, I'm sure you've been to a great restaurant and the mood is really terrible.
Yep.
And the food is unbelievable, but the mood's bad. And if the mood's bad, you don't want to go back. And I'm sure you've been to not such a great restaurant, but the mood is unbelievable, and you want to go back again and again, even though it's not the best food, and but it's just a great place to be. And by the way, I know you got good friends of Mark Eaton. I'm not talking about his Italian bistro restaurant either.
I'm not talking about Tuscany.
Yeah,
we'll go there again.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. And so, but really, it's your impact on that. And how do you get people to be as inspired as you are to have the same kinds of feelings? And this is a really hard thing for entrepreneurs too. Now I'm an entrepreneur. As I said, I bought and sold a lot of companies, but I'm also have run big operations with billion-dollar budgets as well, but still have that entrepreneurial spirit. And what happens is the first thing we do is we build, we're a one-man band. That's what we do. We're a one-man band. Or one-woman band, and that's how we get started. And then the next day is we add these devout followers. So we add people who might not have the skill sets and the things that we want, and the way in which it's supposed to be done. But you know what? Their heart's in the right place, and they're with us. And you know what? They're also a warm body. But the next step for you is to make that transition, and it's real hard for a lot of businesses to make the transition from these devout followers to skilled practitioners and the people you need to really run your business, and that's a really tough one. But mood helps you a great deal in all that, and you really need to work on that.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. That mood, that culture, and I talk about it too. It's like, what's the momentum of the company? Like, how do you get that ball rolling and keep that momentum going? And the excitement is critical.
It's a great word, momentum. And I actually call it in the book, and Think Big, Act Bigger, I actually call it the cadence. What's your cadence, right? When we go on a hike, we go on a drive, we go on a ride on horses. What's the cadence that I want to put the horse in? So it tells me the speed of what you're going to do. And you can sense that. And if I were to walk into any business there for the Hero Club, and walk in your business, I can get a sense of your cadence almost immediately. It's like watching the movie West Wing or the TV show West Wing. Mm-hmm. In the TV show West Wing, remember years back, or pick one today, but I was like West Wing because it was so fake. Because you walk in there, and if you've ever been in the White House, they showed people always walking around behind the scenes all the time. If you've ever been in the White House, nobody walks around. It's quiet. It's very quiet. It's very somber. It's very serious, which is, the nature of what they do. But if you walk into your print shop, or you walk into your software business, or if I walk into, I know we've got some Hero Club guys that are like the taco trucks or the waffle trucks. I met those guys. Ooh, I can't wait. I told them they got to add bacon to it. Bacon waffles. It's bacon. Everything looks good with bacon. Just telling you right there. Secret sauce, bacon, right there. That's it. You put bacon on it, and I'm telling you, it's the second most search word there is bacon. All right. Anyway.
Strawberries, whipped cream, and bacon.
You don't need anything else. You just order bacon. Just bacon. But anyway, what's that cadence? Is it, and your speed of which you operate, the speed in which you respond back to people, the speed of which you initiate new projects, and that's a really good thing. I love that cadence, that motivation that you mentioned.
Well, and that actually takes me, because that's one of the things I loved in your book was the cadence. But the other thing that I'd love for you to hit on, another great tool, and we're going to send out this link at the end for everybody to be able to get this recording, to keep it, to share with your teams. We'll also send out some links for them to buy your book. One of the other things that I love in your book is the Caitlin rule.
Sorry.
Fantastic. I mean, everybody needs to know about the Caitlin rule. It's a great tool.
Yeah, I'm laughing because it's a good one. Because it happened right here. Okay, here's the Caitlin rule. The young woman came to work for us. Let's see, gentlemen and ladies, see if this happens for you. All right? So she comes to work for me, found her, the superstar. superstar, going to be huge, going to be big. But young woman, we're about to leave in about 5-10 minutes to go and see across town to meet with the CEO of a company that we're going to help this company go public. Because we at Tallgrass, that's what we do. We make big, small, big, medium-sized companies look bigger. That's what we do. That's what we help them do. And a couple times a year, we help a couple companies go public, or get them positioned to go public via social media, via their audience building. We build up their audience, we build up their customers. It's not about your email list anymore, it's about your whole community. And so they build the wiki pages, all this stuff. So we're about to go take this company public, meet with the CEO, and I'm going to go through the plan. Now, Caitlin stops by, she stands right here, and she says, Mr. Hayzlett, she goes, should we take color copies of the presentation with us, to the meeting? And I turned to her and I looked at her and I said, Caitlin, you're new here, so you don't know this, but there's a new rule. In fact, I'm making it up right now. It's called the Caitlin rule.
Yeah.
And she goes, well, what's the Caitlin rule? I said, well, I'm naming it after you. And here's the deal. You get to ask me 21 questions. You can ask me any 21 questions that you want. You can ask me about the meaning of life. You can ask me about which train to take across town. You can ask me what's the best Italian restaurant in Utah. Whatever it is. You can ask me, does this dress make me look fat? I don't care. You can ask me any freaking question that you want. Is that one of your one questions? And she said, I don't think so. And I said, good career move, because if I have to answer it, what do I need you for?
Yeah.
And then I turned to her and I said, Caitlin, I'm not saying it to be mean. I'm not saying it to be cruel. I'm saying it to be direct. I'm being very clear about my conditions of satisfaction. Again, my conditions of satisfaction are, my job is to do a couple of things, but mostly it's to be the eye candy for the company. Okay, with a face like this, we can all understand. Get it? No. Unfortunately, it's super chunky size. But here's what I said to her. I said, my job is to be the front person, and the thought leader for our company, which means when a camera is out there, I'm supposed to get in front of it. When I'm supposed to hit a mark on a stage, I hit a mark on a stage so I can speak and do the things I do. If I'm supposed to write a book, I'm supposed to write a book. That's what I have to do. And if I have to go and meet with a customer, I have to be prepared, which means you have to prepare for me. And everything behind that star or mark on the stage, you have to do. So if I have to do those things for you, what do I need you for? And let me ask you a question. Do you have time to make the color copies? And she said, no. Then I said, why would you ask me such a question? You already knew the answer to it. And if you already know the answer, don't ask me those, don't waste your 21 questions. So it's really about, and the point about this whole thing is, what are you doing to hold the people you work with accountable?
Right.
And on their promises. So everybody in my operation, they all have promises. I have promises to my shareholders, and each of the people who report to me have 4, 5, 6 promises they owe to me. And then each of those people have 4, 5, or 6, and 4, 5, or 6, and they all build up to those 5 or 6 clear promises that I need to deliver for the company. Yeah. So if we're all not doing our job, if we're all not practicing the Caitlin rule of holding each other customer. And so what we do here, and what I do in every company, is always make sure that we understand what the action cycle is. And on one side, we always have a performer. On the other side, we always have a customer. And so in this case, I'm the customer or the performer. And she was the performer. She needed to do the things she needed to do. And she wasn't clear with me about the conditions of satisfaction. So I made those very clear.
It's interesting, because it's about two things, right? It's about, and you talk a lot about in your speeches and then in your book too, it's not just about the accountability, but it's also about the empowering.
Yeah.
Right. And the empowering and enabling your team as a CEO, you got to give them clear direction, but you got to teach them how to think for themselves. Some of the best leaders that I know give a really good high vision, but then let you run. And if you have the right competency and confidence, you can do it. And if not, you need to do the training and things like that. But let me ask you this, Jeff. Do you have something to add on to that?
Well, yeah, I was going to add with this because, I'm sure Rob Ryan's probably talked about this with the group before too. He ran a multi-billion-dollar company and just a unbelievably great strategic leader. And, I'm sure Tyler, has talked to the group too. A great guy on strategy. and sometimes you have to think through that process and understanding that that's a clear point of what you've got to be able to do in delivering those promises. And you make sure that they're upfront with everybody, and you've got to have them set there, and then let people take risk. It's okay. No one's going to die.
Right.
Make a mistake. No one's going to die. And I always let my team, do they make mistakes? Do I see that they're going to make mistakes? Do I let them make the mistakes? Yeah, I do. Because if they don't, they won't learn. And so I'm okay with that. I try to minimize it by making suggestions or something, but it's your choice.
Right.
Now, the other thing you might not know this, and as entrepreneurs, is, some smaller companies, but they're still big. Okay, in our minds, they're always big, no matter whether it's a dry cleaning operation or it's a business on Wall Street. So I don't want you to be upset with me when I say something like that. But with newer companies, we think we got to always be so hands-on and into everything, and we don't. When I was chief marketing officer of Fortune 100 companies, do you know how many times I saw the CEO in a month? Maybe, or talk to him. Just talk to him.
Yeah.
Maybe once, twice in a month. And those are usually for our calls, and maybe as many as 4 times. But outside of that, quite frankly, I never ran into the other people that I was interacting with, because we're each doing our job. We're each, like in a football team, we're each playing our position. And the only time I want to hear from the other player is when you're not going to make your block, because I don't want to get sacked. So you need to let me know ahead of time that the guy across from you is even stronger and meaner and tougher than you. And that's usually when we had those kinds of discussions or got together, was when we were proactively saying, hey, I got an issue. I go to my CFO, we're down in sales, this isn't good, and we got to change this, but here's what I also did. I'm down in my sales, sorry, but I also cut $20 million to make up the deficit so that we could hit the bottom line number, okay? Because you know why? That was my promise to you,
right,
was the bottom line number. And here's what we're going to do to make up the sales side, and here's let me show you what those things are. Those are the key things that you have to be able to do, Randy. Thanks for letting me add that point, because I thought that was important.
Yeah, no, if you don't empower your team, then you can't grow, and finding those right people. One of the things that kind of add on to that, as you do that, what are some key things, some leaders that you've worked with, other people that you admire in CEOs and leaders?
Well, I see great leaders in small businesses and big businesses. There are people that I've written 3 books. My first book was The Mirror Test. The second was Running the Gauntlet. The third book is Think Big, Act Bigger, which is now sold like 500,000 copies. So we've been pretty excited about that. And each book has done its own thing. But in the Mirror Test, I actually wrote about 4 individuals who I thought were really inspirational in my career. Now, you'd think there'd be people like Lee Iacocca, that you think there'd be people, like Zig Ziglar, and all those people were truly inspirational and true heroes of mine, and some of them were actually friends, and I knew who they were. Yeah. But it was people like Michael Connor. Who's Michael Connor? He owned a print shop in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And one of the things he showed me was every day how to do the Z out on a little cash machine. And you know what I do every single day is I do the Z out. I got to Z out every single day on the businesses that we run and where we're at and what's the monthly average, what's the weekly average, what's the daily average, how's it compared to last month, and how's it compared to last year? Am I up or am I down? I run a conference called and it's a network called the C-Suite Network, and which we've invited all of you guys to do. And at the end of this, we'll tell you about some other special things. But at that conference, every day I look at the attendance. I know that on average, I have to hit 11 people a day in order to hit the number we have. Yesterday, we hit 10. I was freaking out. Okay. So, those, because at 10, that's 10% of my number, and I'm down 10%. Oh my gosh, what are we doing? What are we doing to get the extra person? So they said, oh, clerical error. It was actually, we were up 3. Okay, great. So that's the kind of details. And so it was a guy like that who was running at that time, a $600,000 business, which I bought that business and grew it into about $3 million. So, it's that attention to detail. It's the Fred Pinson of the world when I was 14 years old, and he gave me a pick and a shovel and made me dig trenches in Georgia because he was a plumber and I was a plumber assistant. And I tried to not do it as deep as it should be. And he convinced me that that was the wrong way. And so he made me dig another one twice as deep just to teach me how to dig the right link, the right thing. It's those kinds of people that truly, to me, are the people that deliver on things every single day. Now, are there other great business leaders that I see every day? I see, again, people like Rob Ryan and others who are inspirations, and yourself and many others that I've gotten a chance to meet. And you take something every day. I always look for what I call the keepers. And what are keepers? Keepers are something that they say or do, and I keep that right up here, or I write it down, and I say, I want to keep that, because I want to make that part of what I should be doing, because it's either an inspiration, it's motivation, or, it's educational. It's one of those that really helps me do those things.
Yeah, no, that's so awesome. That's great, great advice, and great. You learn from everybody, right? Leaders, whether they're big or small, you learn from everybody. You have some slides that you wanted to show us. Do you want to pop those up, or you?
No, hey, look, we're going. So this is good. I will bring up one. You talk about another leader. Let me give you another one that I just recently had. As I mentioned, my television show. One of the things that I think that we need to do, or I see that businesses fail to do, and that's one is being transparent.
Yeah.
And I call it being radically transparent. Now, sometimes in the business, we think our people don't know what's going on, and we hold it back. Maybe cash is tight, or this or that. I share all that now. And I share it because years ago, I owned that. Remember that printing business I just talked about? I bought this printing business. I did the first year I made money. The next 2 years I lost money. The last year I made money. I learned a lot during that business. And when I was in trouble with it, I was in trouble with the business. I'd tried to grow it too fast and didn't have enough cash. I was in cash bind. Everything was on COD, man. If it came in the door, you had to pay cash for it. I got my butt in trouble, but I negotiated. I went out to everyone and said, look, I'm good for it. I'm going to do this, this, and this. I'll pay you so much a week. I'll do whatever I have to do. And I live up to my word if you just make sure you keep supplying me. And as long as I sent people their checks, and as long as I sent people money, they were cool. But I remember one time I had a manager, and even though the cash was tight, I didn't tell my manager of the printing operation how bad it was, or how tough it was. And so he went out and bought a semi-load of paper.
Wow. Because
he got a great deal on it, but they wanted cash. And so he had them write a check, and it sucked out every dollar I had out of the account. And while he was trying to do the good thing, he didn't know how close he almost put me under, right? Because I didn't know, because Fran Tarkenton is a really good friend of mine, former Hall of Fame football player from Minnesota Vikings, once was talking and he said a keeper that I just love from Fran, and he said, if you haven't laid awake at night wondering how you're going to make payroll the next day, you really haven't lived. And that's the way it is for a lot of us entrepreneurs. And we all been there, and I'll probably be there again. I try not to, but I probably will be at one time or another. Because I take risk. Now, he almost put me under, and so it was there I learned. Why didn't I share that with him? Because I went to him. I said, Tim, what did you do? Why'd you do that? Why? And he goes, I didn't know. So when things are coming in COD, your employees know the cash is tight. When you're taking vacations and you're buying the new Mercedes or the new BMW or whatever it is, they know things are going pretty good. So why not just share with them so they have some similar knowledge of the things you do? Now, a great example of this, if I may, is I was watching television one night and a commercial comes on. And on this commercial, it says, our pizza tastes like cardboard. And I went, what? Who advertises something like that? Who says that their pizza sucks? And it was a Domino's commercial, because I know that every one of us has ordered Domino's over a period of our time. And so there they were advertising they suck. Now, imagine what the meeting was. Remember I said I take you into the C-suite. So I called up the CEO, and I called up the CMO, and I got him to agree to let me come and interview him why they would do this. Because you imagine what the meeting was like. The CEO is talking about how great they are, and all of a sudden the CMO raises her hand and says, whoa, we suck. We suck so bad, we should change the name, retool the recipe, and then we should advertise and tell everybody about it. And let me see if I got this right, Mr. CEO. You agreed with him, okay? and you spent $10 million to redo the pizza, world-class chefs, change the ingredients, change the name from Domino's Pizza just to Domino's to reflect your varied menu, and then you spent $80 million to tell people, and you still have your job. It doesn't make sense. And he said, yeah. I said, well, but you changed the brand promise of the company. He goes, no, we didn't. I said, yes, you did. He goes, no, we didn't. I said, yes, you did. And I said, but we can keep this going, but it's my show, so I'm cutting you off. So then I said,
this was the CEO of Domino's.
Yeah, CEO of Domino's. So,
okay.
So then I said, you basically changed the brand promise of the company. And he goes, no, we didn't. I said, yeah, you did. You know what the brand promise of the company. It's 30 minutes or it's free. That's the brand promise. So basically, they cared more about getting us the box than what was in the box. That's fundamentally what the brand promise was. And here they were changing it, and then they went out and advertised it. I mean, basically, remember the experience at Domino's. This is what it's always been. You basically, hung up the phone. It was the first thing you did when you hung up the phone with Domino's, Randy. Remember? Your wife probably makes the phone calls on those. But the first thing you did when you hung up the phone, yeah, because you checked to see what time it is, because you were hoping to get a free shitty pizza. Basically, that's what it was. And not only did you want a shitty pizza, you wanted shitty service so you could get the free shitty pizza. I mean, that was basically what they were doing. And they changed that and said, no, we're doing away with that. We're going to give you a great product, and we're going to give you a great product, and we'll get it there, but we care more about what's in the box than the box itself. And the results were tremendous. The campaign was huge. Their stock went from like 70 cents to $130. I mean, it's unbelievable.
And you contribute that to being transparent.
Absolutely, without question. They're doing it again today. In fact, right now, guys, they're doing it with the phone. They're doing it right now where you can call in. They're saying, hey, if you call us, we can't hear you. We're in the kitchen. It's not a good experience. But if you order it on the app, we'll bring it right to you. And if you screw it up, it's your fault. Okay? But, that's not the real cool thing about it. Let me tell you what the real cool thing is. By using the phone, by using the app, and by getting people to capture their own behavior and make their own pizza and make it a game, they save $1.18. $1.18 on the cost of a $6, $7 pizza. That's huge cost savings. That goes right to the bottom line. Absolutely freaking brilliant, and they're being transparent about it. And by the way, let me add this. I shouldn't have. Can you tell I've had like 8 espressos this morning? Anyway. This is the most personal device there is in the world. That's it, the phone, right? You know where this is more than most of you know where your children are. I kind of kid about that, but
the thing you really can take 3 things to bed, right? Your dog, your wife, and your phone. That's
I hope you don't, and do not do it in the order that Randy has just given. Okay, I'm just telling you, if gentlemen, you will be in very big trouble if you say it that way. We better edit. We'll edit that part out, Randy. That'll be our awesome.
So, but it's true. Like that is the most important part. Now, I mean, you look at Uber, you look at some of these other companies, how they're utilizing technology. How important, Jeff, as you've seen things grow. I mean, like when you were at Kodak and other things, where do you think things are heading with technology? And as you run in the C-suite, you're dealing with a lot of companies. I mean, how many? There's 500,000 companies now in the C-suite group?
Yeah, we have 500,000 that have joined as part of the C-suite, and adding more, 10,000 every single week. So we're pretty doggone excited. We're reaching out and vetting a community. It's the most vetted community there is. It means you have to be this high in terms of dollar volume. You must be this position, or you don't get in. I like LinkedIn. But LinkedIn's become overburdened. It's not growing anymore, and anybody can reach me, and it's become just a sales recruiting tool. And I want something that I can have like the Hero Club, where I can get together with people like me. I can have great conversations, share great information, and I can say something to somebody who understands what I'm talking about. So that's a big part of what we're doing. So absolutely, that's a big part.
And we're so excited to do so many things with you. We're excited to come out and participate in November 7th, 8th, and 8th. That's coming up. Will you tell us, I mean, these are huge learning opportunities. I mean, we're going to be working closely together on a lot of things. We're going to be doing, events together and inviting the CEOs that are part of our Hero CEO Club. Can you tell us, one, why you did that, what your passion was behind that, and then also what these guys can expect. We've got quite a bit of people coming out to San Francisco. We'll have a great mix of people. You want to share with us why you've created that and your passion behind that?
Yeah, I'm going to also share the screen right now, if I may, Randy, and because I got a little slide that I want to show everybody here, and let me just pull that up, and I apologize, I'll make that bigger, and we'll take up the screen. But this is on November the 7th and 8th, we're pulling together what our calls our C-suite conferences, our last of the year. And we've got a special hero member dinner planned on Monday night. We haven't announced this. We haven't sent it to anybody. I know that there's a number of you. I think we have about 30 so far. So it's a pretty good number that's already coming in, and we want more to be able to come for the full conference on the 8th, which is fabulous. But on the night of the 7th, we're going to meet with about 10, 12 best-selling authors. You get a chance to get every one of their books for free. And then later, privately, no one knows this, and it's only your group that we've invited. We're going to take you to dinner, and I've invited Keith Kroc. Now, Keith, I don't know if you know Keith. I'm sure you do know him, Randy, but Keith is the former chairman of Ariba. He's the founder of Ariba. He built that company from scratch, built it to $6 billion. $6 billion, sold the company. He now serves on numerous boards of directors, venture funds, and a whole bunch of others. And then he went over and became the chairman of DocuSign. Now, I think most of you know what DocuSign is. It's e-signature. It's a document transactional platform to be able to handle all your contracts, all your legal documents. A lot of you have done it in your homes, but now it's across the businesses. And so Keith is going to join us for dinner. He's about to take that company public again. I happen to serve on the board of directors for DocuSign with some of the greatest leaders in the tech world as well on that board, and then they let me do it. But it's something that Tallgrass worked with them on their strategy and a whole bunch of groups. And so Keith has become a very good and dear friend of mine. And he's going to join us for dinner on Monday night, and it's a private dinner with the Hero CEO members. And we're going to have dinner with him, and you can ask Keith how you can, because he's about to do it again. They're valued at a unicorn again. DocuSign is going to go public at probably about $2 billion. Who knows? I've heard a little bit higher here recently. And when they go public, that'll be the second unicorn this guy has done. I don't know anybody else that's done that at billion to billion to billion. And so phenomenal. By the way, he's looking for a CEO. He's in a search because he wants somebody to take over his position, and because that's not what he likes to do. But he's just done a great job. And so you're going to ask him anything you want to know. He'll talk to you about his philosophy. He has more ADD than I do, and he's just an awesome guy. So so email me. There's my email. I'm going to send you all a letter, invite letter and so forth. But if you want to email me, tell me, yep, Jeff, I can go to the dinner. We'll get you all the stuff. But I wanted you to right away know exactly what we're doing.
No, that's that's just for our group, right?
Yeah.
That's just for us.
Yeah. We've not invited any other group. Yours is the only group. You're a very special group of very entrepreneurial and fast-growing companies, and so we saw who you guys were. I had hogtied Justin and Tyler and you and Cynthia and everybody else to get you together, and we got you together because you guys are so busy, and we're so glad that you guys accepted this invitation.
Well, and it's good because it opens up a whole network for us. I mean, the last event I went to in New York was fantastic, and then this one in San Francisco. It's going to be fantastic for our guys to actually open up their network and see what other companies are doing across the nation. So yeah, one of the quick things, and then we're going to open this up for Q&A. So
by the way, there are 27% of the people in the audience of the C-Suite Network that day on the 8th will be billion-dollar companies and above. 22% will be 100 million to a billion, and then 51% are that 10 million range up through 100 million. So that's your peers. That's who you're going to be with. Lots of places to fight above your weight, so to speak, is the best way I describe it, because my business isn't there yet, and it will be, but my business isn't there yet too. So I fight above my weight. So I want people in the room who we can learn from and network with, and that's what it's about. That's what the C-Suite's a network about. We have our content and information. We have our services, so you're going to get we're grabbing things like Scipio. We're grabbing things like, we're about to announce a new black credit card that each of you are going to have the opportunity to get. Ooh, I shouldn't have said that. but I'll talk to you about that in November. And all this other stuff that we've got coming down the pike that as Hero members, Hero Club, you're going to get to have. It should be awesome.
No, that's fantastic. I have one last question for you, and then we're going to open this up for Q&A.
Fine. Oh, great.
What is it, Jeff? Because you're always so passionate. You're full of life. What are some of the habits that you do daily to help you stay on top?
Wow. One, I talk to my wife before I go to bed at night, and I talk to her in the morning when I get up. That's the first things I do. No matter where I'm at in the world, that's the first things that we do. So that's one. I stay very grounded with my family. That's important for me to know that we all put our pants on the same way. We put our boots on the same way. Well, some of you don't have boots, but you know what I'm saying. And so that's one, is to remember the key things around that. The other habits I do is I'm a real writer. I write things. This is my to-do list for today. There it is right there. And then I print my schedule out every day. I'm old-fashioned that way. And by the way, when I print it out, that's when it gets locked in. You can't change it. Okay? Now, unless there's an emergency or something like that. But I also, every morning I look at my calendar and I decide, what's my focus? What are my promises? Are the items that are on my calendar worthy of me taking up my time for that day? Or do I just say... Or just cancel them, and I cancel them. I canceled 2 meetings today because I told the team that meeting's been scheduled for a couple of weeks. We don't need that meeting. We've really covered it, right? It's just it's a placeholder. We don't need that. The other one, I don't want to talk to that guy. So, yeah. So I called my CEO. I said, "You talk to him. I don't want to talk to him. You talk to him." And so it's things like that. I'm really good on apps. I have no more than 10 emails in my inbox in any given day. Okay. Now, sometimes they might creep up to 80, and then the next day I knock them all down. But my goal is to have less than 10 emails in my inbox. And then I use some secret tools like SaneBox and tons of other apps that are just very, very, very helpful for me. I used to have a full-time assistant. I don't have an assistant anymore. And yet here I am, 14 boards, running companies, trying to build my own unicorn, speaking 167 keynotes this year. And I've just got a great team, and I let people do it.
And it's interesting because you don't have an assistant anymore, but I will tell you, you have C-suite, and well, that's what I've always been fascinated with, even the books that you've written and everything. And I mean, we used Tallgrass back in the day. We've known each other since 2005. And you've always been able to put the right people around you. I mean, Trish and Tom and Ashley, and I mean, the whole team's been just fantastic to work with. So you don't need an assistant if you've got a great team. Right?
Exactly. I have a great team, and so what I do is I get out of the way and say, I always ask them, this is a great thing for leaders to do. What can I do to help you do your job better? Yeah. That's a simple question. And then after you get through the things, they'll pay me more benefits, stuff like that. You get through, okay, if I pay you more, then you'll do this more? Good. Okay, well, good. Let's figure out a way to pay you twice that, because then you'll be twice as good. So I'm okay with doing all those things. But yeah, I do have a great team. I spend a lot of time making sure, like when I have had assistants, just one good rule for all of us CEOs is always have your spouse interview the person too.
I love it.
It's a great one, because if mama's got to be happy, and if mama ain't happy, right? And so I always make sure that I interview all the people, not certainly people I hire. I have other people, so I have my wife, I have my daughter, I have my son interview them, I have other people interview them just to get to know them. Am I getting the right kind of mix? Am I getting the right chemistry that I want? But the other thing is, if someone works for my CEO like Carl or my CEO Tom, I want to interview his direct reports.
Yeah. Okay.
So we always do those things, so we always have those good balances, and it really helps. And we spend a long time hiring people, but it pays off.
That's awesome. Well, listen, we're going to open it up to chat now. You've got an amazing company. We're excited to work with you guys. We're going to open it up for chat now. Be able to ask Jeff anything that you'd like to ask him here for the next 10 minutes before we wrap up the show. Jeff, it's been great having you here. So let's move it to some questions really quick.
Awesome. And by the way, guys, you can also tune. I have a podcast I do on CBS now. It's called All Business. And every single week I do interviews with Steve Forbes, Kevin Jonas, who's a rock star, Gene Simmons, who's crazy. Who did I have last week? I had the CEO of Varsity Sports, which is the cheerleading company that does it around the world, and they own a ring company and school gowns and companies like that. And then I did a guy in Utah who's the cricket guy, who's making flour from crickets. It's a bug business, but it's kind of interesting. It's amazing how many millions of crickets need to be made to make like a pound of flour. Yeah.
You know what? There's so many ways to make money. It's just awesome.
It was interesting because the bug guy he's into his stuff and he's really into his lifestyle and so forth. But I also interviewed the medical marijuana guy, the biggest in the business, and I thought, man, I'm going to be talking to this dude who's going to be like, hey, dude, how you doing? Man, one of the most articulate, smart people that I've ever met. So it's always amazing. Sometimes there are interviews that I go into and I think this is going to be the boringest interview I've ever had. I just did it the other day with Cisco, an interview with some guy at Cisco about the cloud, and I thought, man, I'm going to hate this interview. This is going to suck. And it was awesome. And I admitted that on the radio. That was very, very good. So you always learn new stuff.
Here's a question that I just got. So you, and I've always, 76% of all small businesses are family run. You actually, Tyler works with you, your son, Lindsay, your wife helps in. What's the secret to running a successful family-owned business? Because I know a lot of our CEOs actually have, family in their business and running that. They also, it's almost, when you're working with your best friend, it's almost like family too. So how do you run that successfully?
You got to separate certain things, and there are certain rules where when you're at home, you don't talk business. It's like sometimes my wife will say, we're going out and you can't wear a shirt with a logo, which means you can't wear one of the company shirts or Kodak logos or C-suite logos or my TV show or my radio show or whatever. And she says no logos. And that means we got to have a date night, right? And the same thing with my children, and they work in the business and it's awesome. But I always try to have my children report to somebody else other than their father, because I think it gives them a more grounded experience. Also, I think they learn that dad's not such a bad guy as well. That's one of the other things. But we try to do that, and we try to separate when we're father, son, father, daughter, and husband, wife, from when we're employee, employer. And you really need to try to lay those groundworks and have those things done. So that's important. Hey, I see we got a question from, is it Shay Seeley?
Yeah.
Okay. He asked, what's the greatest struggle you've ever had and what did you do to overcome it? It's a great question. And I'm going to answer it kind of in a smart aleck way. I don't know, because I haven't had it yet. And what I mean by that is, at the moment, they're always the greatest. At the moment, it's always the biggest one. And yet I come to find out that wasn't so bad. And the next one's the biggest one, and the next one's the biggest one, which means it's a continual struggle. That's why we take the risk we take. The biggest ones I've always had, it's usually around where people let me down, okay? And when I find out they let me down, it's usually around the conditions of satisfaction again. We didn't really set those out the way we should have. We could have been, I was too trusting, which means I didn't check in with them enough, right? Where if I'd have been a good customer, I'd be checking in to see, are they reliable? Are they competent? Are they sincere? I'll grant it. See, that's a key word, trust. Trust is made up of three things: sincerity, reliability, and competent. Now, I usually give everybody sincerity. If someone breaks sincerity, that's a pretty big issue, all right? But it's rarely have I had that in my career. And there's a couple times where someone just flat out lied. And you get that. And there's not much you can do to protect yourself from that, because they just do it. And it's sometimes, unfortunately, a bad side of human behavior. The other ones, are they competent and reliable? Well, you can be competent and be unreliable. I know you can do a good job, you're just never going to deliver it on time, right? And then you can be reliable and uncompetent. And so, which means every time you deliver it to me, you do it a bad job. So I try to really lay those out, and that's usually where I spend a great deal of my time. So it's usually always, how do I overcome it? Oh man, do you have a choice? Do you have a choice? You have to overcome it, because that's what we signed up for. So whatever the struggle is that you got to do, isn't that what we struggle? That's what we do. Now, whether it's like, I don't, spend enough time with my family, doing this, doing that, that's what I need to do that. I need to fix that. And I wrote the book, The Mirror Test, because the person responsible for your success, the person responsible for the things in your life that you need to be doing, is staring back at you every day in the mirror. So if you want to know the answers, go look in the mirror, because that's where you're going to usually find them.
It's so true. I love the mirror test because, you actually talk about that as the mirror fog up. Are you alive? Are you there?
Yeah.
And, if you're waiting for all the smart people to show up, they're usually there,
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. Shay, I hope that answered your question. That's a good one. And I'll have more. I mean, have I had some tough times? I told you about the cash crunches. I mean, I've been there before. Do I go without salary sometimes in my new startup? Yep. This month I didn't get paid. And but by the way, we're having a record month. Let's be clear. But one of my things is I'm not dipping into my reserves. I'm not dipping into the places where I said I got receivables on the thing. I got no payables. But I just said I'm not going to do that. And yeah, I have got values around what I'm going to do and not do. So I said I'm not going to get paid. I'll have to catch myself up later.
Yeah, you're investing. I mean, that's the thing is there's a time to harvest. There's a time to reap. There's a time to sow. Right now, you're building one of the greatest, really CEO/C-suite networks around. There's 500,000 people part of this, and so I mean, we're so excited to see you in November 7th and 8th. What are some things that everybody could do to help prepare for that?
Well, just be there on time and come to be aware of what you're not aware of. I think that's one of the best things. Don't have a preconceived notion about what it's going to be. Come being unaware of what it's going to be, and just be aware of being unaware. And what I mean by that is I always find that when I'm open to new opportunities and new things, new doors open. And yet when I come in thinking it's going to be this, or I'm not going to like this guy, or I'm not going to like this thing, I always look for the keepers, and I always look for those things. And so I try to I'm a hunter. Okay. As Randy well knows, I like to hunt. I like to fish. I like to be outdoors, and I love to just sit there and be aware of my surroundings and look for things I didn't expect to be there. It's like that, it's like the end of a field. When I'm at the end of the field and there's this much grass left in the thing, and I think there's no bird there, and I step there and 3 birds get up, which I mean pheasants get up out of this little short grass, and I almost stepped on them. And that's when I find the great surprises. And so that's what we want you to do is come. So you're going to join us for dinner on Monday night. We're going to send you the details. Send me an email that says you can make it and do it. I would love to do that. I'm going to look and see if some of you have already done that. And we're going to have you there. There's a couple right there have already told me you're going to be. Ooh, look at that. Heroes in San Francisco. I love it, love it, love it. So you send me that email, and you're going to be there. But I'll send you an email as well. Randy will as well. Cynthia is certainly going to be riding herd on you and making sure that you know all the details. So, we appreciate her and all she's doing to make that happen. And then all day, you're going to spend all day with us on the following day. And then we'll watch the election returns.
It's going to be a night. I love it. I can't wait. It'll be very interesting.
It's called the theme around the conference is called disruption, and it's going to be disruptive.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. You're always caring less about conventional wisdom, Jeff. You're always reframing limitations and helping people to grow higher. I mean, I'm excited to just work with you. We've been friends for a long time, but you are a great man, and we appreciate your time today. And we look forward to seeing you in San Francisco, buddy.
All right, my friends. So you think big, act bigger in the meantime, and don't forget to be relentless. It's not the lucky who win, it's the relentless.
Right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you in San Fran.